The hardest part of any war is not the first shot. It is breakfast on day 10. We have spent more than 10 videos showing you how the United States Navy dismantled Iran's military, ship by ship, radar by radar, factory by factory. You know the weapons, you know the kill chains, you know the geometry. But after all of that firepower, the Strait of Hormuz is still closed. Every channel on this platform asks the same question: who will open Hormuz? Wrong question. The right question is simpler and harder. When Marines land on those islands, Abu Musa, the Tums, who feeds them on day 2? Day 10? Day 30? Seizing an island takes 1 day. Holding it takes ammunition, fuel, water, food, and medical care, every single day, with mines in every direction. No port, no road, no supply depot within 300 nautical miles. So what do? You cannot fly it in fast enough. You cannot sail a conventional ship through a minefield, and you cannot build a supply depot on a rock that was under enemy fire 24 hours ago. 2 ships are currently crossing the Pacific Ocean toward Hormuz. You will not find their names in any headline. Portland, Comstock, and they carry the answer: the engineering of survival. If you want to understand why the ships behind the headlines decide who wins, subscribe to Navy Decoded. Because what almost lost Britain the Falklands in 1982 is the exact same problem the Marines are about to face at Hormuz. We told you USS Tripoli arrived at Hormuz. We told you USS Boxer was deployed early after the Ford fire. But both of those videos left out one variable, the one that actually determines whether Marines survive past the first week: sustainment. Day 1, the assault. Intense, fast, violent. Day 5, HIMARS batteries run dry. Day 10, generators need parts. ACVs need replacement tracks. Day 15, Marines need fresh water, hot food, and 3 of them need a surgeon. Not a medic with a field kit, a surgeon with an operating room. Yes, Boxer and Tripoli both carry hospitals, but those ships are committed to the assault. Boxer is running F-35B sorties around the clock. Tripoli is running F-35B strikes and MV-22 assault insertions. She has no well deck, she is pure aviation. Their medical bays are already absorbing combat casualties from the initial operation. When the sustainment phase begins, day 5, day 10, day 30, you need additional medical capacity that is not competing with the attack mission for flight deck time, operating room hours, or bed space. This is not a theoretical problem. The British learned it with blood in 1982. May 25th, Falkland Islands. 2 AM-39 Exocet missiles, fired from Argentine Super Étendards, struck the container ship Atlantic Conveyor. The ship was not a warship. It was carrying helicopters. 3 Chinook heavy-lift helicopters and 6 Wessex, gone. In a single strike, Britain lost the machines that moved ammunition, fuel, and casualties across the island. The troops had already landed. They held their positions, but the supply chain behind them collapsed. Ammunition expenditure exceeded planning estimates by 4 times. 4 times. Nobody predicts how fast you burn through supplies until the firing starts. And without heavy-lift helicopters to shuttle those supplies forward, the entire campaign nearly stalled. Not because of enemy fire, but because of logistics failure. Now look at Hormuz and do the comparison. An MV-22 Osprey can carry roughly 10,000 pounds of cargo on a single external hook. Good for emergency resupply, insufficient for sustained operations. A Marine battalion on an island burns through more than that every day. You need something heavier. Something that can carry 60 tons per trip, 120,000 pounds, 12 times what an Osprey delivers. You need a vehicle big enough to carry an M1 Abrams tank, or a HIMARS launcher, or a month of fuel bladders across water and across mines. That vehicle is the LCAC, Landing Craft Air Cushion. Boxer carries 3, Portland carries 2, Comstock carries 4. But Boxer's LCACs are committed to the assault. They deliver the first wave of Marines and armor to the beach. Once that landing is complete, Boxer's well deck switches to recovery operations. The ships that run the logistics shuttle, the 24-hour resupply cycle, are Portland and Comstock. 2 ships, 2 completely different designs. One feeds people, the other feeds machines. This is why you need both. Let me show you what each one actually does, starting with the one that carries a hospital. USS Portland, LPD-27, San Antonio-class amphibious transport dock. 684 feet of steel designed around one philosophy: Keep Marines alive after the assault is over. Start with the hospital. 124 beds, 2 operating rooms, dental surgery, x-ray, laboratory, pre-positioned on a 25,000-ton hull floating outside the minefield. The nearest shore hospital is Naval Support Activity Bahrain, 300 nautical miles away. A medevac helicopter at 140 knots takes over 2 hours. In 2 hours, a combat casualty requiring surgical intervention does not survive. Portland eliminates that gap. Osprey retrieves the wounded from the island, flies 12 minutes to Portland's flight deck, and the patient is in surgery before that medevac helicopter would have reached its cruising altitude. That is the difference between a field hospital you have to build, 48 hours minimum, and a surgical center that is already there, already staffed, already sterile. But Portland is not just a hospital. It carries 699 Marines, 14 armored combat vehicles, Humvees, and a well deck holding 2 LCACs. Portland can land an assault force and keep it alive. And then there is the detail that connects this ship to a concept we taught you 3 videos ago. In 2020, Portland became the first amphibious ship to shoot down a drone with a laser. Not a test fixture, not a simulation. A live unmanned aerial vehicle destroyed by a 150 kilowatt solid-state laser, the LWSD Mark II, built by Northrop Grumman. In 2021, Portland fired it again in the Gulf of Aden and destroyed a surface target. The cost per shot is measured in electricity, pennies compared to a rolling airframe missile at nearly $1 million per round. In the video on Odin and Helios, we showed you directed energy on destroyers. Portland proves the concept migrates beyond warships. An amphibious transport dock, a hospital ship, now defends itself with light. That matters at Hormuz. Iran still has missiles. Stockpiles survive even after we broke the factories. C-8 operations have degraded their coastal radars, but not every battery is gone. The remaining weapons still need one thing to be effective: targeting data. And the cheapest way to get targeting data is a surveillance drone. Send a Shaheed to find the LCAC convoy, transmit coordinates, guide a fast boat or a shore-launched missile to intercept. Portland's laser burns that drone out of the sky before it transmits a single frame. Kill the eyes, and the missiles go blind. Cost to Iran? Tens of thousands of dollars per drone. Cost to Portland? Electricity. Run the attrition math. Portland feeds people, heals people, and protects the supply chain with photons. Now meet the ship that feeds machines. USS Comstock, LSD-45. Whidbey Island-class dock landing ship. 610 feet, 16,000 tons. And the largest well deck in any active amphibious ship in the United States Navy. 440 feet long, 50 feet wide. That is not a compartment. That is a hangar, built into the belly of the ship, designed for one purpose: launching and recovering LCACs at industrial tempo. Portland carries 2 LCACs. Comstock carries 4. With the vehicle ramp raised, she can fit 5. Comstock does not conduct assaults. She conducts logistics. LCAC out, loaded with 60 tons of ammunition. LCAC back, empty. LCAC out again, loaded with fuel bladders. LCAC back. Cycle. Repeat. 24 hours a day. One LCAC trip delivers 60 tons. Enough ammunition and fuel to sustain a Marine battalion of 500 for 48 hours. Without Comstock's LCAC fleet, there are no tanks on the island. No HIMARS. No generators, no replacement parts. The assault succeeds, and then it starves. And here is the detail that makes Comstock's story extraordinary. According to the Navy's 2020 long-range shipbuilding plan, Comstock was scheduled to be decommissioned this year, retired, scrapped. Instead, she is crossing the Pacific carrying 4 hovercraft loaded with war supplies toward the most contested waterway on the planet. A ship that was supposed to end her career in 2026 is now performing the most important mission of her entire life. But none of that matters if the vehicle inside her belly cannot cross a minefield. And this is where the engineering gets extraordinary. Now go deeper. You have seen us mention the LCAC before. This time, we teach you how it works, because the physics is what makes the entire logistics chain possible. The LCAC rides on a cushion of air 4 feet above the water surface. 4 gas turbines, Avco Lycoming TF40Bs, generating 16,000 shaft horsepower combined. That power feeds 2 systems simultaneously. 4 centrifugal fans that inflate a rubberized skirt beneath the hull, creating the air cushion, and 2 shrouded propellers that drive the craft forward at over 40 knots with a full load. The 4-foot air gap is the critical variable. Pressure-activated naval mines, the most common type Iran has deployed in the Strait, require direct physical contact or significant pressure displacement to detonate. A 60-ton hovercraft distributes its weight across the entire surface area of the air cushion. The point pressure on the water beneath it drops below the threshold that triggers a mine designed for the concentrated keel pressure of a steel-hulled ship. The LCAC glides over the minefield. The mines do not fire. But pressure mines are not the only threat. Magnetic influence mines detect changes in the Earth's magnetic field caused by large steel structures. Acoustic mines listen for engine signatures. Against these, the LCAC is not invisible. It carries steel. It generates noise. This is why the approach lane must be cleared first by dedicated mine countermeasure assets, literal combat ships deploying unmanned sweep systems. We showed you how the LCS does that job 3 episodes ago. Once that lane is cleared, the LCAC crosses at 40 knots. Too fast for any remaining threat to reacquire it. How does an LCAC launch from a ship? The process begins inside the well deck. The ship takes on seawater through ballast tanks, lowering the stern until the well deck reaches sea level. A massive stern gate opens. Think of a garage door the width of a building. But here is the engineering surprise. The LCAC does not need a flooded deck. It requires only 0 to 6 inches of water over the sill. The crew inflates the air cushion while the craft is still inside the ship, and the LCAC glides out on its own breath, hovering across the deck edge and into the open ocean without ever touching water deep enough to float a conventional boat. The cost of this capability? 1,000 gallons of fuel per hour of operation. Logistics. To run logistics. That is why you need a dedicated well-deck ship like Comstock with 4 LCACs and bulk fuel storage. Not a carrier, not a destroyer, but a floating warehouse with a garage door at the back. Portland feeds people. Comstock feeds machines. But if you only have one, the equation collapses. And that is exactly what the Boxer Amphibious Ready Group was designed to prevent. Let me show you what happens when all 3 ships operate as one system. Day 5, after the landing on Abu Musa. The island is secured. Marines hold every defensive position. HIMARS launchers are deployed, controlling the shipping lane. And the first supply crisis hits. HIMARS ammunition is exhausted. 3 Marines require immediate surgical intervention. An ACV's drivetrain needs parts that do not exist on the island. Mines surround every approach. A conventional landing craft would be forced to navigate through them at 5 knots, exposed and vulnerable. Comstock opens her stern gate. An LCAC inflates its air cushion inside the well deck, glides across the sill, and accelerates to 40 knots, 4 feet above every mine in the water. 12 minutes later, 60 tons of ammunition and fuel pallets land on the beach at Abu Musa. The LCAC deflates, unloads through its bow ramp, reinflates, and returns to Comstock for the next cycle. Simultaneously, an MV-22 Osprey lifts off from Portland's flight deck carrying the 3 wounded Marines. 12 minutes. Flight deck to operating room. The surgeon is already scrubbed in. Iran launches a Shahed surveillance drone to locate the LCAC convoy and relay targeting coordinates. Portland's LWSD laser locks the drone at range. 150 kilowatts of concentrated light. The drone burns. No missile expended, no fighter diverted. Pennies. Above it all, Boxer's F-35Bs fly combat air patrol, handling the threats the laser cannot. Anti-ship cruise missiles, the remaining coastal batteries that SEAD operations have not yet reached. The laser kills the eyes. The F-35Bs kill the fists. 3 systems, 3 ships, 1 equation. This is the Boxer Amphibious Ready Group operating as a complete system. We told you about the ARG in the video on the Ford fire, but what we showed you was the flagship, Boxer, the assault carrier, the F-35Bs, the first wave. What we did not show you was the machinery behind it. The ARG is 3 ships, and each one solves a different equation. Boxer attacks, Portland sustains the people who fight. Comstock sustains the machines they fight with. Remove Boxer, and you cannot assault. Remove Portland, and your wounded die. Remove Comstock, and your HIMARS goes silent on day 5. Now stack the defense layers against Iran's remaining options. Mines? The LCAC flies over them. Surveillance drones? Portland's laser burns them for pennies per shot. Fast boats? The A-10 Warthogs handle those. We showed you that equation. Shore-based missiles? SEAD degraded the batteries. F-35Bs handle what remains. And Iran's own logistics? Factories in rubble. Ports destroyed. No production, no import, no resupply. The supply chain that feeds the American force hovers above every obstacle Iran placed in its path. The supply chain that feeds the Iranian defense no longer exists. If this changes how you think about war, if you now understand that the ships behind the headlines decide who wins, subscribe to Navy Decoded, because what we just showed you is the equation nobody else is teaching. Who feeds the Marines on day 2, day 10, day 30? Portland feeds the people. 124 hospital beds, 2 operating rooms, Osprey medevac, and a laser that kills the eyes of every drone Iran sends to find the convoy. Comstock feeds the machines. 4 LCACs delivering 60 tons per trip through a well deck the length of a football field and a half, cycling day and night across a minefield that stops every other ship in the fleet. Together, they complete the equation that Tripoli started and Boxer reinforced. Not a raid, not a short-term occupation. Sustained presence, indefinite, self-supporting, and protected at every layer. War does not end when the bombs fall. War ends when one side runs out of logistics before the other. Iran's factories are rubble. Iran's ports are destroyed. Iran's navy is at the bottom of the sea. And crossing the Pacific right now, a ship that was supposed to retire this year is carrying 4 hovercraft toward the most important mission of its entire career, keeping 4,400 Marines alive at the far end of the world's most dangerous waterway. Logistics wins wars. Engineering wins logistics. And the 2 ships nobody talks about are the ones that make everything else possible.